Passion can take us to many places, both surprising and unsurprising. Maybe it shows up in your professional life and shows you a career that feels like it was made just for you, the way a teacher might love their job and could never imagine doing anything else. Or maybe it presents itself in a personal hobby, something you find yourself getting lost in for hours because it feels so significant and so encapsulating for no explicable reason, like oil painting or working on cars. On one hand, it's not saving any lives or changing the world, but at the same time, it feels so important that you're drawn to it and compelled to invest time in it. Wherever and however your passion shows up, it might eventually bring you to feeling an urge to get really skilled at what you do. And there is a clear and guaranteed path to gaining that high level of skill. In following your passion, you might find yourself wanting to get very good at your job, eventually demonstrating exceptional competence and expertise that benefits the receivers of your work or takes you very far down your beloved career path. You might find yourself wanting to gain every nuance of mastery in your craft or hobby, seeing things others can't and developing intuition and reflexes that make incredible outcomes happen almost automatically for you, the way a seasoned musician can speak their emotions through their instrument, or an artist can make a masterpiece seemingly out of spontaneity and randomness. That leads you to a very big question. How do you get really good at something, especially something that's hard to measure ability in? The way to guarantee a rise in skill in something, an inevitable reaching of mastery in that something, is to fully enhance your use of intentionality in engaging with this task you're trying to master. Increase how intentional you're being when you do this task. That might sound simple and possibly obvious, but true skill and impressive competency comes when you take this idea to its most extreme. This is about much more than simply being very aware when you're working at a task, though that is a component related to it. This is much more about every thought and every action being entirely 100% outcome driven. Everything you do in regards to this task you're mastering should become completely intentional, meaning that you do every bit of it on purpose and for a really meaningful purpose. If you at some point decided that you wanted to become known for cooking the absolute best scrambled eggs, you would have to start exploring, well, what are all the components you can manipulate to increase how enjoyable scrambled eggs are? There are potentially infinite answers to that question. The obvious ones might come to mind first, like you have to get good at timing so that you're not overcooking or undercooking them. You have to get them to be just the right consistency. Maybe there's an optimal combination and amount of spices that really push these eggs toward being the best. But to truly literally make the absolute best scrambled eggs, you'd have to think about intentionality even beyond that. You'd have to think deeper and consider, how much heat do you use while cooking these eggs? And does that temperature need to change throughout the cooking process? Which fat do you use to cook them in? Butter? Oil? If you're using oil, then what kind of oil? Olive? Canola? Avocado? How much oil do you even use? What kind of pan is the best pan to use to really get the best outcome? Is there a size of pan that makes a difference too? Does the cooking utensil you use make a difference? If you're adding anything to it, at what point is the best time to add those things? For example, does salt go on while it's still cooking or afterwards? Once it's done cooking, what's the best way to serve it? Should it be served with a drink or another food to enhance how much you enjoy it? Should it be eaten immediately or after cooling for a moment? There's probably a correct answer to many of these questions, and it may not always be the obvious answer. If you were to be totally intentional about all of these factors and more, and found the answers to these questions of what makes the difference, you would no doubt be making some really brilliant scrambled eggs. To get the most intentionality and purpose possible might require turning over every stone you see, asking yourself every question you could conceive, even the ones that seem dumb or irrelevant. To question what matters and put large amounts of effort into seemingly insignificant details are the hallmarks of intentionality and the distinctive features of the experts of every single field. You might wonder if intention truly is enough to become great as you'd like to be at least. And it is. To fully explore your craft with purpose and intention inherently requires effort and focus. You'll find yourself putting in the hours, doing the research necessary, having the supportive kinds of conversations you need for getting yourself further along in what you do. This one key element instantly directs you forward to all of the other things we think of as related to the mastery of a skill. It'll drive you to practice all the little nuances to see if they really make a difference. It'll make you examine your outcomes to see how much better you're actually getting and what's changing in your performance. It'll make you look at examples of greatness in your field or hobby and try to see what they see or notice what they must have noticed, maybe even compare your work to theirs. Once you've gotten to a point where you no longer do anything simply out of convenience or by accident, you might just be able to say you are one of the best at that task. And now that you know what you know, there's no going back. Greatness and brilliance will forever be at your fingertips. The only thing that will determine whether you reach it and shine in what you do is whether or not you put the effort into realizing all the little things it takes to be a master at what you do.